Okay. This is. It's working. I have nothing. Okay. Good afternoon. Sorry, some technical glitches going on here. I think we're all good right now. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Parul Patel. I'm the Associate Grants Officer for the Quality of Life Grants Program here at the Foundation. Welcome to our webinar. So just a note before we begin, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box. My team members will try to answer as many as possible. Hopefully, we'll get through them all after the presentation, but if not, please email them to the QOL@christopherreeve.org email. So Reeve Foundation is the National Paralysis Resource Center. We are federally funded through the cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration for Community Living, better known as ACL. They are the ones who have dictated the reporting requirements, and we share with them the information that the grantees provide on the reports. Okay. So I manage or provide oversight for all awarded grantees. I provide guidance to the grantees as needed, process budget changes, no cost extensions, manage grant reporting, and finally closing. The purpose of today's webinar is to offer all of you some guidance on how to complete the interim and final reports. I'll walk you through the report reminder emails, accessing the grants portal, reporting questions, as well as financial reporting and budget revisions with some examples for clarity. I'll try my level best not to bore you, but please understand that this script is very limited and hope that you cut me some slack. So let's begin. Since the interim report precedes the final report, I thought I'd start with that. So the interim report date for this cycle is July 31st for 2022 direct effect second cycle, expanded impact and priority impact. So 30 days before the report due date, the applicant gets an automated report due reminder email that looks something like this. So by default, the main point of contact for us is the applicant. So once awarded, the application and all associated reports are assigned to the person who actually submitted the application in Foundant. So Foundant is our grants portal. The person this person, the applicant, has the login credentials and will get all direct as well as automated emails from Foundant. This is why it is important that you notify us if this person leaves your organization or is no longer responsible for the grant. The email subject line, you will see up at the top, says interim report reminder. So the subject line indicates which report is due. The blue text in the first sentence says the grants portal text. That has the actual link to Foundant, which is embedded. The next sentence is once you log on and the steps you need to take to actually access the report. But above all, the most important things you want to keep in mind is the red texted sentences. It says all project changes must be approved by the foundation prior to reporting. Do not submit this report if the budget revision is needed. And if it is needed, please to contact me, ppatel@christopherreeve.org. We also began sharing the budget file in the Excel format, which is our required format in Foundant. The shared file you as the applicant will find on your Foundant dashboard. If you have any difficulty accessing the form or do not see the shared file, please contact the QOL@christopherreeve.org for assistance. So once you click on this blue highlighted grants portal text, you will be directed to this page. Here, this is the logon page. Again, it's the email associated with the application and the password that was created by the applicant at the time. In case you have any issues, again, on the right-hand side, there is the QOL email address, which you need to contact if you are having any difficulties. Okay. So once you access Foundant, you will be brought to your dashboard, and this is what your dashboard looks like. So the process is the grant cycle for which you are to provide your reports. The follow-up forms, as indicated by the first blue arrow, is the list of forms which are pending for this application. So I've highlighted interim report for direct effect quality of life grants. It is due on July 31st, 2023, and the status is assigned and it's in edit mode. So once you come to this screen, all you need to do is click on edit and it'll bring up the form where you need to fill out the questions as well as attach the Excel budget file. So the second blue arrow on the bottom next to documents uploaded by the administrator, that is the interim budget file that we have shared. Please use this form to report your interim expenses. So after starting the report, if you need to exit and finish it later, please remember to save the report so that you don't lose any of the information or the updates that you made so far. Once you save it and you go back in, you will notice that the edit status, the status is changed from assigned to draft. And once you complete your report, you must remember to hit the submit button for us to receive it. You can confirm that by exiting and going back in to see if you are able to see the submitted status. The preview is indicated here because final report is not due and you must submit the interim report. So once I review the report and finalize it in Foundant, that's when that preview status for the final report will change to edit, and you can make the changes to the final report. All right, so the next slide. So no matter which report you're working on, project results are evaluated against the proposed or revised activities, outcomes, and or budget. So the intent of the interim report is to give us an idea of how the project is progressing midway, roughly 6 months into the project timelines. So it is a very simple report with only 4 questions. This is the first page of the report where the project name and amount are pre-populated from the application. Question 1 deals with timeline. This is your projected timeline on the remaining part of the project. Is it on schedule? If it is, move forward to the next question, and you can answer any in the next. If it is, you can proceed. If it's not on schedule, you click no, and then on the next question, you write your explanation as to why it is not on schedule. For example, you can have a situation where the exercise equipment was received later than anticipated, which caused a delay in the project timeline by 2 months. However, we will offset the delay by increasing the number of classes offered in the time remaining. This will ensure that our goal of offering 8 classes is met and close out the project as scheduled. So once I see this type of an explanation for anything that is behind schedule, I know I can move on and there's no concerns or questions because it's clearly stated as to what the delay is and what the impact on the project will be. Okay, so the next question has to do with your accomplishments. What are your accomplishments to date compared to what was proposed? So you need to just keep it simple. You don't have to go into too many details. Just a paragraph sometimes suffices. So make it as simple as possible. Sometimes I get a few pages just on the interim report, and that's not really necessary. We want you to make it very simple for you and us. So the year-to-date accomplishments relative to the proposed activities, like equipment was ordered and received, participants are using the chairs. Year-to-date, they have used the chairs during 2 wheelchair basketball games, and that's it, you're done. So the next question is project changes. This is where you can note any approved modifications, like budget revisions, changes in quantities, scope, etc., and the impact on the project. For example, if you propose to purchase 4 wheelchairs, but actually purchase less, then you would write something like the actual unit cost of the proposed chairs was higher than anticipated. As such, we were only able to purchase 3 chairs rather than 4 proposed. However, since we were able to purchase an additional chair with the internal funds, there will be no impact on the project. This was communicated to the foundation. So something simple, just like that. And the last item for the interim report is financial reporting. So the last mandatory item is financial reporting. Some do's and don'ts for financial reporting, which apply to both interim and final reporting. Please use the shared Excel file from your dashboard to update the expenses and attach the updated file. I see so many that do not include the expenses. I suggest you change the file name to ensure that you are attaching the updated file and not the blank file which was being shared with you. So financial reporting by way of example. Say this is a hypothetical budget for 18,500. If this is your approved budget, and if I was to see this file being submitted, so then this report would be rejected for two reasons. Please note that it shows 18,000, not 18,500 as the final, as the approved budget, which would indicate that the shared file was not used or that it was overwritten, albeit unintentionally. So that budget, which was approved with the grant agreement or previously revised approved budget, must be accurate if you're not going to use the file that we've shared with you. The second reason is, please note that the interim expenses are not itemized. All this file shows is a lump sum of 9,000. And these are actual examples that I have come across in reviewing these reports. If the budget is itemized, please itemize your expenses accordingly. And again, this is both for interim as well as final reporting. So for the same 18,500 budget, if I receive a file like this is something that will be good to go. As you can see, it's a accurate budget, 18,500, 9,000 has been itemized at interim, and the balance remaining is 9,500. The reason I stress that you make sure that the numbers are accurate is because there's so much downtime once a report is submitted, and for whatever reason I need to or I'm unable to accept it and it is rejected. The report goes back into the draft phase, which means you now have to go in, fix whatever you need. I have to send you an email before you even get to that point, before you realize that something is missing, take care of whatever is missing, and then resubmit. And then I have to go back. So please, to make sure that this is a very, very important piece of the report. Make sure this is accurate. It saves a lot of downtime. And then finally, with the interim report, we have 2 additional materials and additional supporting materials. This is an opportunity for you to include whatever you feel is going to support in support of your application. It can be photographs, it could be videos that were made during the grant process. It's free for all. You may attach anything grant related as you like. All right, so the next item is, so 6-month check-in and 18-month check-in reports are primarily for non-direct effect grants. So they have a project schedule in excess of 12 months. So priority impact, you could have, depending on the tier, 18-month grant or a 2-year grant, in which case you would need to submit the check-in request. Expanded impact, for example, is a 2-year timeline. So we require 4 reports, a 6-month, an interim, an 18-month, and a final. So the cool thing about these check-in reports is it's only 2 questions, right? There's no financial questions in there. It just talks about the timeline and the project changes to be responded, you know, just as I mentioned earlier. So now that takes care of interim, this takes care of the 6-month and 18-month check-in. Now let's move on to the final reporting on the project. So just like the other email, 30 days before the final report is due, you would see this email that says, notice that this one says final report reminder. So the due date for direct effect 2022 first cycle is June 30th. This is the deadline to submit all your final reports for this grant cycle. The difference between the last email, the one for interim, and the final email is the last sentence here, which says, do not submit this report and contact P. Patel if awarded funds have not been fully expensed and or project changes have not been approved. So at final, this is a catch-all report, so we must have full funds expenditures completed, as well as anything that was pending or outstanding needs to be resolved and approved before a project can be closed. So do not submit the report. Reach out to me if there are some loose ends that need to be tied up, because again, you will save a lot of time. We both will save a lot of time with all the back and forth and reverting to draft and back into submission stage. So the intent of the final report is to provide an all-inclusive accounting of Reeve funds in the narrative, as well as the financial expenditures relative to the proposed or pre-approved revised goals, objectives, and budget. As with the interim report, the project name and the amount awarded will be pre-filled from your application. The first item is project completion. A project is not complete if the amount expensed is less than the amount funded. If you have a balance remaining on your expense file, we ask that you do not go any further with this report and contact me so that we can fix that before this report is submitted. So if the project is complete, select yes. The funds have been fully expensed and all project activities, including evaluation and outcomes measures, have been completed. Otherwise, select no and state the reasons as to why the project is not complete and continue. For example, a project that is not completed, you might have a comment in there that says, although the refunding has been fully expensed, the playground equipment was received and the installation is pending, or the equipment has not been used. So our grants do ask for the number of people served, and we ask for a specific timeline. If the timeline is delayed for whatever reason and you're not able to serve the number of people within the timeline, please to reach out to me before you submit this report. You can state your reasons why, and I don't like to reject a report based, if the financials have been completed. Depending on the reason, I will reach out to folks and get additional information and then reevaluate the status if it needs to be rejected or reverted back to draft or not, and issue an extension. So depending on the reason, but at minimum, the financial piece has to be completed when submitting this report. All right. So the next item is project changes. So as discussed, here is where you would note the changes to the project, including the way the program was delivered, budget changes, no cost extensions, etc. If no changes were made, enter NA. If there were changes, that were made and approved, indicate the change and state the reasons. For example, the proposed ramp was purchased at a reduced cost than originally quoted, which resulted in a savings of X amount. Approval was given by the foundation to redirect the saves from equipment to personnel costs to offset the cost of hiring an interim project manager. Something like that. So that was an example of what you would indicate under project changes. Depending on the situation, you can check in with me first if you're not sure of what you should be writing in there. But that was an example of one of the responses. So the next question is project goals. For easy reference, right? The form was modified to pull in the relevant information for many of the reporting questions from the application. So for this item, the proposed project goals will be pre-populated from the application. So all you need to do is refer to the revision documents if there was any impact, and add to the response in a narrative. So here, project goals actual. So this is where you will report what you accomplished, the outcomes achieved relative to original and or revised goals. For goals which were not achieved, provide an explanation. And here's an example. The proposed goal was to increase accessibility to the community center for 50 people with paralysis by replacing a ramp. Then the response would be the ramp was purchased and installed to ensure accessibility for 50 people with paralysis. If the goal was partially met, then you would put in something like the ramp was purchased and installed to ensure accessibility for 30 people with paralysis. The project manager had to take an unanticipated leave of absence, which delayed the project timeline, and outreach initiatives resulted in less than anticipated people served. So those are your two reasons. The anticipated outreach results was less, and the unexpected leave of absence. If the goal was revised, let's say goal number 2 was revised to ensure accessibility for 30 people with paralysis due to lack of participants. As a result, exercise training or oversight expense was reduced by X amount. Through the approved budget reallocation from the foundation, we were able to purchase additional equipment X. So depending on the situation, this is how you would phrase your actual responses. Again, by pulling in what was proposed, there's a very quick and easy access to compare and contrast. So you look at goal number 1, what was proposed, and your response to that goal. Goal number 2, your response, and so on. If there were any changes, again, just indicate that although this wasn't the originally proposed goals, we ended up doing X, Y, and Z after getting approval from the foundation or something like that. So the next reporting question is evaluation and project measures. So this is again proposed. This will be pre-populated from your application. And this is where you would put in the actual measures. So I'm not sure if it's but I like to think that if you include it, you need to measure it because this information, again, is needed for ACL reporting. So Just to clarify, an output is a number, like an increase in the number of people served, or number of lessons to be provided. And an outcome is a change in someone's attitude, knowledge, or behavior, like an increase in someone's knowledge about a topic or higher level of satisfaction, happiness, quality of life, etc. So your response will depend on what was proposed. For example, if the proposed measurable results included the number of clients served, the number of therapy sessions provided, and self-reported impact results from clients through surveys. By way of example, 25 people with paralysis will receive 100 equine therapy sessions for majority will report a positive impact on their health, social interactions, and quality of life. Then your response would be for output, 25 people received 100 equine therapy sessions. For outcome, 96% of respondents reported a positive impact on their overall health and wellness. 90% of the respondents reported that services received had a positive impact on social interactions. And 100% of the participants reported an improved quality of life. So that was a sample of comparing what was proposed versus what was actually achieved. If the output was reduced, was a reduced number from 25 to 20 people with paralysis, but the same number of sessions were offered, the 100 sessions, then you would indicate, although 25 people were expected to participate based on an early registration, only 20 participated. 5 people with paralysis did not participate due to lack of caregiver availability or transportation, for example. Okay. So again, the impact is the proposed number of people with paralysis that were to be served based on your application. It will be pre-filled, then you put in the actual number that was the number of individuals that were actually served. 5 people did not participate due to lack of transportation or caregiver. If your results actual were short by 5, for example, you would provide something like that, an explanation to show that what caused the decrease. So this is the same thing, except this deals with caregivers and family members of individuals with paralysis. Sometimes some applications do indicate the number of family members or caregivers to be served. Sometimes they don't apply because the direct participant is the individual with paralysis, and so there is no impact to the caregivers or family members related to the program. So again, same thing, compare proposed versus actual, and just clarify that if there's a negative impact or negative variance, why that was. The next section is challenges and lessons learned. The information in this section is very important and useful for us. It lets us know which organizations are facing what type of difficulties and how these difficulties are mitigated. It supplements or supports some of the shortcomings of the proposed activities. And we also, when I review these reports, I do notice a pattern sometimes. And depending on the type of pattern, we do reach out to individuals, or some grantees may call in and ask for guidance regarding the same type of issue, and we are able to guide them better because of the information that was provided to us. We now also have started, as a result of all of this, community learning initiative, where like grantees will come together to discuss like issues, what's working for them, what's not working, and so on. So this is a very important section. The information you provide does come in very handy. So the challenges encountered, what's an example of that? Okay. So we were unable to purchase the proposed equipment X because it was no longer available, let's say. After consulting multiple manufacturers, we were able to find a similar equipment Y with a slight difference in price. So that would be a challenge that was encountered, but that you were also able to fix that challenge, and it shows how it was fixed. Regarding lessons learned, you can share what you have learned as a result of this project. Ooh, I did it again. Sorry. Okay, challenges. Sorry. Bear with me. Okay, regarding lessons learned, you can share what you have learned as a result of this project, what you will be doing differently going forward. Have you collaborated with different organizations or groups of people that yielded a positive impact on the project? And your processes, for example, what worked, what didn't work. So something, a sample of this would be additional collaboration has had a significant impact on our program by increasing demand for the services we provide. To ensure continuous delivery of the program and services, we will need to seek funding, other funding and resources. Or our outreach efforts led to the formation of a new partnership with the organization ABNC. Through this partnership, we increased awareness of the services offered by our organization. Our list of clients and demand for our services increased by, and you can identify a percentage, X%. We were able to serve X number of clients more than originally proposed. We will continue to build upon this partnership beyond the grant period. So something like that would be your response in this section. Okay. So the next section is mandatory section for final report is financial reporting. Again, right here in the application, in the form itself, we do indicate to use the Excel file that we have shared with you. And to be honest, this is the first form I look at. If the budget doesn't match, or if there's a balance remaining, or if there's an expense without an approved budget for it, the report is reverted to draft. And the applicant will need to resubmit with the corrected file. The expense file continues to be the #1 reason for rejecting the submitted report. Although the incidents are on the decline, since we started to share the file, now the right budget is being used, but the expenses are missing. So as I mentioned earlier, please save the updated file with a different file name and attach the updated file to ensure the report being reverted to draft. Okay, so in this example, this is a $10,000 budget with $9,500 expense amount and $500 remaining. Well, this is a final reporting, and this cannot be approved. So this would be reverted to draft. So it could be that the person filling out this form made a mistake and entered the wrong amount, or the expense is correct and there is a genuine balance remaining. If it was a mistake, the person would correct the amount expensed to show zero balance remaining and resubmit the report, something like this. And this would be okay. This would be approved and the project can now be closed. However, if there is a genuine open balance, then the report should not have been submitted based on the report due reminder email and the note at the start of the report. And we keep reiterating the same thing. It is important to make sure you fully exhaust the funds before submitting the final report, because we would not be able to close the project with an open balance. For open balances, we would need to receive a proposal for fully expensing, because remember, this is at the end of the project timeline, which means depending on the time needed to fully expense the balance remaining, there may be a no-cost extension that may be required, or it could be that the funds need to be reallocated to something else within the project budget. So again, we would need a request to revise the budget, reallocate the budget, or request a no cost extension, or both, all of the above. So you know your situation best. I would strongly urge everyone to look at their financials and their at the 11th month or before if possible, and then reach out to us to avoid a lot of additional delays going forward, because it would unnecessarily drag the project forward when it can be avoided. So again, we are all here to answer your questions. You can reach out to any member of the QRO team or me directly, and we would take care of that. So this is another example. This is a $10,000 budget, which was revised. As you can see, the approved grant agreement amount was $10,000, and then approved budget revision adds $500 to personnel cost, and equipment cost is reduced by $9,500. By 500, so the net impact is zero. And the approved budget at the grant agreement level and the budget revision is the same. So the bottom line total amount approved does not change. We cannot increase or decrease funds once they have been awarded. So in this example, if this was submitted after the budget revision, it would be rejected because this does not match the latest budget. on file. There was a revision since the grant agreement. So, and this would be the proper file to submit for a budget that the starting point, if you will note, says approved budget revision, and there's a date, and then the final expense, and then the balance remaining. So for clarity, I'd just like to walk through how to request a budget revision and related no-cost extensions if needed. So your revision request needs to include the need. Why is the revision needed? And depending on your situation, the reallocation may or may not impact the project timeline, especially when you switch equipments, which may be dependent on availability or the program delivery, where you may need some preparation lead time, again, depending on your situation. So there also may be an impact on the number of people served, plus or minus. And lastly, we require a revision file which shows the changes. So by way of example, say you wanted to reallocate $3,000 from consultant line to executive director line with no impact on timeline. So your request would state, due to an emergency, the consultant is no longer available to provide exercise instructions. Our executive director is a certified exercise instructor and will offer the remaining classes in-house. As such, we would like to reallocate the remaining $3,000 from consultant line to executive director line in personnel costs. The project timeline will not change. So as you can see, the requested file amount has in personnel increased from 5,000 to 8,000. And then the consultant line has been decreased in the yellow column to 1,000 from original 4,000. For the file, you would need to just add a column next to the file that we've shared, like in this example here, and just update the numbers. So this example shows a $3,000 increase in personnel, a $3,000 decrease in consultant line. It assumes that the consultant did incur a $1,000 expense prior to leaving the program because there is a balance in that line of $1,000. So whoever the consultant was, they did do some work worth $1,000. And please note that again here, bottom line, 24,000 to 24,000, nothing changes. Only the way the budget has been allocated has changed. If everything is okay, the revision is approved, the requester is notified, and the revised budget now supersedes the previously approved budget. So when completing the final report, you would include budget revision narrative under project changes section of the report. Let's see. So using this, the same example, if there was an impact to the timeline. So again, the 3,000 shift from consultant to personnel, but now this time, let's say they have an impact to the timeline. So your request would include something like, due to this change, our project timeline has been extended by 3 months and would like to request a 3-month no-cost extension. This will allow us to fully expense the funds and increase the number of people with paralysis served from 30 to 38, for example. In this case, we would authorize a no-cost extension along with the budget revision approval. And the final narrative would include the same, the revision as well as the commentary on the no-cost extension. And lastly, this is, again, where you can provide any additional relevant information like photographs, videos, et cetera, and fill out the impact evaluation at the very bottom, which is managed by Vanderbilt University. So I hope, it was my hope to provide you some guidance. I hope this was helpful to you. My team and I are again here to help you and assist you and guide you in any way that we can. Please reach out to us as needed. Now we can respond to the questions in the chat, as many as we can in the time remaining.
Thanks, Parul.
Yeah.
We actually, there were maybe one or two, we answered those already.
Okay.
I think one thing that I just want to add is that we never want money back. So if there is a balance on your
Right.
grant, we will, work with you to make sure that we find a way that we're able to expend those dollars as well.
Yeah, and we are here to, if you are at a loss or if you have no idea, reach out to us and maybe we can give you some insights as to what other organizations have done with similar programs that may help you in deciding how to fully expense those funds.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing I'd like to add is when you were talking about the challenges and lessons learned section, what's really helpful for us sometimes is when you do put those, what those challenges were or what some of the lessons that you learned doing the entire process of the grant can really help us when we see organizations that may have a similar project coming in, with an application that we could kind of alert them to, give them a heads up, look, think about this. This has happened to other, grantees, or, it also can help us if somebody else is in a similar situation where you are at the end of the grant to say, okay, here's what this other, group did at this point to kind of, deal with whatever that challenge was, or this is a lesson that they learned. And so, what you're sharing with us not only helps us, but it can help other, other applicants and other grantees as well.
Right.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, Parul's email is here. Just please, feel free to email her, or if they're more general, you can email the QOL email. All right, thank you.
Thank you.